Hey guys, and welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield and I'm a homeschooling mama to a first grader and a third grader. And lately I have been getting a lot of requests from you guys regarding long-term homeschool curriculum planning, as well as kind of talking about like what are potential picks for next year for curriculum. I know we're not even halfway through this year, but really what you guys were asking, because I said, I can talk about that stuff, but a lot of it's probably going to change, especially the long-term stuff. But even for next year, right? Stuff I'm thinking about right now in May, I might change my mind on. And the consensus I got from you guys was that you actually, it's not that you don't care about what I actually end up picking, but you care more so about the thought process, like how I work through that. In order to help you guys, I guess, better process your own, like, hey, how do I plan this? And what should I be looking for this next year? Things like that. And I thought that was actually really brilliant. I was like, okay, actually that makes so much more sense because it's more about the journey, not the ending, right? So that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to tell you all about how I go through the process of long-term planning, as well as I'm going to, for the second half of the video, talk through some potential things I'm thinking about for next year for our group subjects. I thought about also including individual subjects in this video, but I realized then it would just be much too long video for you guys to sit through, even by my own standards, which I can have some pretty long videos. So that's going to be a separate video that will be coming out after this one. So first off, I thought I'd talk about like, how do I go about the long-term planning? And then I would talk through some stuff for next year. Now, I hope you can bear with me. I've been getting over a cold. I'm pretty good during the day. So right now I'm not too bad. I don't think I'm too nasally. So hopefully you're not hearing a very froggy voice. But I think I'm okay. But hopefully you guys can bear with me and hopefully I don't have to cough too much during this. If I do, I'll edit it out. But let's start with long-term planning. So first off, before we get into any of the actual logistics of it, I have to tell you my number one tip that I would give anybody is that if you are trying to do any kind of homeschool planning, you need a buddy. You need a person that you can talk to about this. It might be your spouse, but for a lot of us homeschoolers, our spouses oftentimes are the breadwinners. They're working a lot. They're not really involved in the homeschooling side just because they don't have the time to research the curriculum. I love my husband and he is a really hands-on dad and hands-on husband, but his job is super demanding. And because of that, he really just doesn't have time to research different math curriculums and science curriculums and things like that. So I do talk to him about it, but he's like, hey babe, that sounds great. Honestly, I trust you implicitly. Like, I don't know if it's not a bad thing, you know what? It's just not his wheelhouse, right? And so I think when we're dealing with such serious content that we're scheduling and planning, and it's our kids' education, you need somebody who you can talk to that can speak your language. You know what I mean? And for me, I'm very fortunate. I have a few people that I can go to. I have my neighbor. She homeschools. She's one of my really good friends. We chit chat with each other back and forth all the time. And you know what? We don't even do a lot of the same curriculum. So you don't have to do the same curriculum as the person you're trying to talk to. And you don't even have to have the same pedagogy or philosophy, right? But you just need somebody who's in the homeschooling world, knows what curriculums are available, can give you ideas, play devil's advocate, be a sounding board. I'm also very fortunate because I have Ashley over at Crazy Brave Homeschool, as well as I become really good friends with Nicole over at the Mindful Homeschooler. So I feel very blessed to have three really awesome people that I can chit chat with things about for my homeschool, and they can give me better perspective. Because I got to tell you, if I was having to do this on my own, it would be a really lonely journey, and I probably wouldn't make nearly as good of decisions as I could, So that's my number one tip. All right, so next, you want to create a long-term general plan, meaning we're not writing in, we're going to do this curriculum in 9th grade, we're going to do this science in 10th grade. We're not doing any of that. We're doing a long-term general plan. And I like to work backwards. I like to say, okay, this is where we want to go, so let's work backwards and figure out what we need to do from here based on that. And where we're ending is the end of high school, right? The ultimate goal is to get your high school diploma and graduate. For some, it is also then to move on to college. Now, for us, we personally are not the people that say you have to go to college. That was definitely what I was told when I was younger. You will go to college. And my husband and I have discussed it, and we've recognized that it's not going to always be beneficial for our children to go to college, depending on what they want to do. They might want to start their own business. Their skill set might be in a different, like it might be in a trade. They want to go to a trade school. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. However, we will be planning their education from here till the end of their senior year as if they were going to college, right? We want to set them up with every possible opportunity available to them. We want them to be able to go to the best and brightest in whatever school that they find that they want to go to, right? If it's an Ivy League, a state school, I don't care. I want them to have opportunities. It's about doors being open. That's the end of the game, right? So even if that means we get to senior year and they're like, hey, guess what? I'm going to go, to a trade school instead. No worries, that's okay. But at least we provided the opportunity for them to go to a 4-year degree if they want to become a doctor or something like that. So depending on your student, you might have a different mindset on that, but either way, you want to keep in mind what that end goal is. Now, for my state, they have no regulations on what is required to get a diploma as a high school student. I find this actually kind of odd. Like there's just nothing, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I could literally graduate my child with 1 credit in high school and here's your homeschool diploma. So that doesn't jive, obviously, right? Because our end goal is we want them to have the opportunity to go to college. So what I decided to look at was my local county's requirements for the public school system for them to graduate from high school. So what are those bare minimum credits? I then compiled that alongside with, I looked at my state universities requirements, bare minimum to get into the colleges, right? And then I'm like, okay, so these are the bare minimums, right? I put all that together and I was like, this is the bare minimum of what my child would need in order to get into a university locally in our state. Now, we'll probably try to surpass the bare minimum because we want more opportunities available, right? So taking all of that into consideration, then I start to map out what do we need to get done then for high school. For me, I'm probably looking at putting biology freshman year, chemistry senior year, physics junior year. If my kiddo, when they get to that point, is not interested in going into a field that is science-based, will probably be done because most of the colleges need 2 or 3 credits of science and 2 of those being a lab. So that would be covered by those 3. If my daughter decides she wants to be a pediatrician maybe, then we're probably going to do a 4th science and probably something in that field like anatomy for her senior year or something like that. So as you can see, I'm just kind of putting in the bare bones, the skeleton of our of what we want to do for high school credits. Do we need 2 American history credits? Do we need a civics credit, a government? Do we need 4 English, 3 math? Like what do we need? And let's like just place those in there, temporarily. This could all change, don't forget, right? So this is kind of how I think. And I'm like, okay, so we've got our high school plan in place. What do we need to do in middle school to make sure that we are prepared to do all of that in high school? And then once we figure out what we've got to do for middle school, we get down to where we are right now, which is next year we're looking at 2nd and 4th grade, right? So that kind of tells us, okay, we've trickled down now. Okay, now I know what I need to do for next year's school year. So we've got a general plan in place. But since we are so far off from high school, what I really want to hyper focus on is the next year or 2, right? I really need to be focusing on that specifically when it comes to which curriculums are we going to pick because they will impact each other. So from there, then I kind of start to draft up potential tracks that they can do. My big focus is on the next couple of years, but I still put in like, maybe I might do this curriculum for junior year world history, right? Like I've got a few options that I've created. But I do that knowing full well that they could all change and none of it could come to fruition, but it's giving me a path to go down. It's giving me something to follow as a guideline. And if it does change, then I, use my colored pencils my colored pens that erase, and I erase things and I change it. And that's the beauty of erasable pens. You guys should get erasable pens. They're literally a gem. So let's talk about potential long-term paths. How do I figure out what I want to put for junior year or 8th grade or next year, right? So first you have to do a big internal audit of yourself, your kids, your homeschool, your life, because the type of curriculum that you will consider needs to fit within all of those parameters. So for me, I did a lot of research on curriculums based off of what are my main priorities. And I have been doing a lot of soul searching on this lately. If you've been watching my videos recently, you know that I've been doing this. And I feel like I've come to a really good conclusion about what's important to our homeschool. And I've written them down because I don't want to forget to mention anything. So I might look down to read the list off. These are my priorities. And this first one would make so much sense because my homeschool channel is called Your One Room Schoolhouse. So my number one priority is keeping my girls together for as long as possible with our curriculum. They have their individual subjects. They get enough individual time. Trust me, they're doing their own things a lot. But we have found that one, for our schedule, and two, for our enjoyment, doing our electives together is just so much better. It's better for our schedule. We're more efficient with our schedule. It's better because we're able to be together, right? We're not these single individuals orbiting around each other doing our own thing all the time and nobody's connecting. We get more out of the material we're learning. We have better discussions together. They're able to chit chat with each other outside of school about the stuff they learn, which they do weirdly, I know. So keeping my kids together is paramount to me as long as possible. I know when we get into high school, that won't absolutely make the most sense because we've got to focus on them in an individual way for their track, for their transcripts, and for what they want to be when they grow up, right? I understand that. But for as long as possible, I would like to keep my girls together if possible. Number two is that I am looking for a literature-based curriculum. Y'all know I lean heavily into the Charlotte Mason world when it comes to my pedagogy. I don't follow her to a T. I am not a purist by any means, but one of the things that I love about Charlotte Mason is the literature, the living books. My girls do so much better about retaining information and understanding information when it comes from a living book rather than a textbook. That's huge for me. Number three, I want a program that is flexible. I want something that I can easily edit. I can pull out stuff. I can add in things. I don't want to feel completely constricted by a curriculum. That would make me feel very stressed out. So flexibility is key when it comes to curriculums I'm looking at, because at the end of the day, there is no perfect curriculum for anyone. You might get something that's 80% perfect for you, but there's going to be a 10 or 20% at least bit that you got to fix and do and cater to you and customize to yourself. But that's, again, why we homeschool, so we can customize. Another thing that is important is, especially for my kids specifically, is they need activities, whether that's hands-on crafts or art or cooking, or specifically, they love videos. They are very visual learners, especially when it comes to certain subjects such as history. History is one that they connect better if they can get a visual with it. So videos are a huge thing for them. And then last but not least, I would say for me is goes against a little bit Charlotte Mason. I want really good classics, but I also really want some good new literature. There's a lot of new literature out there that is prime. It's perfect. And when you go only old school classics, you miss out on that. But when you only go new, you miss out on all the classics. So I love a curriculum that kind of blends them together. I think that is the best of both worlds. And that's just, that's kind of like what I found, at least over the last couple of years with my girls. So now that I've determined what are my key must-haves in a curriculum, I go on the prowl. I have researched hours and days upon hours of information. I'm sure you know that I'm a big researcher, and I've landed on quite a lot of curriculum that could suit our needs. Now, with that being said, I'm going to list a bunch of curriculum for you guys that I find that I will probably consider from here on out till graduation. Now, I might skip some, so if there's something you're like, hey Mary, this curriculum, you didn't list it, but it meets all of your requirements, leave it down in the comments, please. Not just for me, but for other people that are watching this video. But I am now freeing myself from the idea that I have to follow one curriculum for the rest of my life. I liked the idea of that because I felt like that would be easier on me. But what I found ultimately is that it made me feel, again, constricted, and like I didn't have freedom and flexibility in the choices for my homeschool. So you will see this list is pretty large, and there's going to be years that maybe one curriculum works for history really, really well one year, but then the next year, maybe the other curriculum would work best for that, junior year high school or whatever, or history level. So I say all these not necessarily saying that I'm going to pick one and go with it, but like I say it, like I'm going to take year by year. I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to have a few options, but I am going to still take it year by year and see where my girls are. What are our requirements? Have our requirements changed, right? Are we no longer trying to stay together? You know, are we looking for something open and go, or are we looking something that's a little bit more loosey-goosey and we can pick and choose what we want, right? Things will change year to year. I have fully embraced that. I am no longer of the mindset that I'm going to pick one curriculum and stay with it for the rest of my life. So I've got a list. If I don't read off of it, I'm going to forget. So I'm going to look down and read the list. Okay, guys? So here are the curriculums I have landed on. Blossom and Root. Shocking, I know, because we're using it right now. It's going great. Guest Hollow. Story of the World. We're bringing that back in for the middle school ages. Beautiful Feet books. Book Shark. Build Your Library. Oak Meadow, and I'm sure there's a few more that I just forgot to put down on my list. So if there's anything else that you can think of, leave those down in the comments for me. Okay, so you will notice that I did not mention Ambleside Online. And it's not to say that I won't pull from them as a book list, but as an entire curriculum, I am probably moving away from that, at least for right now. That might change when we get into middle school and high school. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that it was becoming more of a stressor than an enjoyment to do Ambleside Online, even though I think they have fabulous literature picks. I think they're just really rich. I think there's a lot of goodness to it, but the reality was that the feast, the Charlotte Mason Feast, trying to follow it as a true purist was causing more stress than good in our homeschool. So I am moving away from Ambleside Online, not entirely. There are still things that I'm going to be pulling from it, like as a book list, but I will not be following it as a total curriculum per se. I still think very highly of them. It just was not jiving with us in these younger years. That very well may change when I get into middle school. Never say never. So I'm not saying goodbye. I'm just saying we're going to hold tight on using them as an entire curriculum at this moment. So I was debating on sharing with you our actual, like I've written out literally different options that we could follow. I don't think I have enough time in this video to share these options with you. It's mostly history and science that I'm tracking because the individual subjects will just change year to year with my girls. So I can't long-term plan that right now. But I have written out like what we might do for history, what we might do for science. And I think I have like 3 or 4 different options here. I think this video will get entirely too long if I talk about it in here, and I'm not even sure if y'all really want to see that. If you do, leave it down in the comments. I will make a full video just going over what my long-term option plans are, okay? I'm happy to share that with you. I just want to get to the group subject potentials for next year and talk through my mindset and my thought process around why I'm considering these different curriculums with you guys. So leave that down in the comments if you want to see that. I'll do a whole separate video for you guys on this and run through it all in detail by detail, like why did I put this here and all that good stuff if you're really interested in planning like I am. So let's talk about next year. So based on all these long-term plans, next year is pretty solidly decided what we want to study. Not necessarily which curriculum we want to study, but like what topic we're going to study. So let's talk about history because that is the one that I'm probably like the least unsure of. However, I have narrowed it down, I think, to just 2 curriculums at this point based on my kiddos' ages and on the material that we want to cover. We are planning, well, actually, I should tell you what we're doing right now if you're not familiar with my channel. This year, we are doing a very gentle intro to American history through American Girl history through the Little School of Smiths, and it is going wonderfully. The girls are really engaging with the material. They are learning a lot about our history. It is a very gentle introduction using the American Girl stories and going through them chronologically through different periods of time within our history. So it's been working out beautifully because I've got a 1st and a 3rd grader. Also, I should probably mention, and I do mention this in my previous videos, but if you are new here, my girls are very young for their ages. My youngest daughter is born at the last week of August, which here locally means if she had gone to public school, they would have probably recommended I keep her back and do kindergarten this year. She is not a kindergartner. Her abilities are first grade and up. She's doing second grade math. She's reading on a second grade level. So for her abilities, she is not a kindergartner, right? We're definitely in the first grade, but she is still really young. She turned 6 only a few months ago. And so maturity wise, I've got to reconcile that, right? I've got to remember she's still young maturity wise, not necessarily maybe skill wise, but maturity wise, young. My oldest daughter, who's in 3rd grade, she is born in July. So if she had been born a month later than she would be in 2nd grade this year, not 3rd grade. So the point of me saying that is I have to take into consideration my daughter's ages, not just their abilities, but I have to take into consideration their maturity level, right? When I'm looking at these programs. So I just wanted to preface that, and because you'll see why when I talk about this in a second. So we've had a really great year so far. I imagine the rest of the year is going to go just as well with American Girl doing an intro. I am not ready to move us into a world history cycle quite yet. Next year, I would like to continue with a more in-depth American history study, and probably span it over 2 or 3 years, depending on what program we use. So that means that we are going to be starting with early American history next year, but not Little School of Smiths. We're going to do a true deep dive. And the 2 programs I'm looking at are, well, I'll tell you about the first one first. I have purchased this. I just printed this off for something to hold. I'm waiting for the manual to get here. It should get here in 2 or 3 days. I was impatient. I just wanted to film this for you guys. So we are looking at Beautiful Feats, Early American History, K through 3. Now you're like, Mary, your oldest daughter is going to be in 4th grade next year. Why would you do K through 3, not 4 through 6? Because they do have an upper level one. 1, I want to keep my girls together. 2, do not knock on this level. These books that are included in here are quite rich, and they go through a lot. So here's just here. If you want to pause it, you can look at it. I'm not going to go through all of it, but we have a lot of Dolores books. We have a lot of Betsy Maestro. We've got Jamestown's New World Adventure. You've got Squanto's Journey, Pilgrim Stories, The Courage of Sarah Noble. You've got Phoebe the Spy, A More Perfect Union. I mean, there's so much in here. There's Harriet Tubman when she led her people to freedom. Abraham Lincoln, Buffalo Bill. There's just, you guys, there's so many solid books. And that's just the main spines. The cool thing about Beautiful Feet is that they also, this is what you need a bare minimum to do the program. They also have rabbit trails. So they're like, hey, here's a bunch of extra books depending on what section you're working on. So they divide it into 7 sections for early American history, and they get you up to Civil War at the end, and they start with the Vikings. Within each of these sections, there's rabbit trails, additional books they recommend. They also have a historic table, meaning a meal that you can cook at the end of the unit of something at that time people would have eaten. Like the Mayflower, I think they do hardtack, but it'll be interesting for the girls to try it out. Thankfully, I can't eat gluten, so I won't be partaking in that. But I just like that they have really rich literature. There are some activities. There's some videos, I think, is what I noticed in the sample. The way they run their lessons are very loose and open. It's a lot of discussion based. There's some copy work. They talk about doing narration, right? It's very loose. The thing I will say though, that I'm not particularly, it's not a con, it's just, I'm not sure if it's in depth enough. I don't know if it goes in depth enough. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'll wait for the manual to get here, and we're going to be doing some comparing with the other program I'm about to talk about. So it has my literature based, it's flexible, right? Because it's so open. It keeps my girls together. It has some activities, not a ton, I will say. I'd have to do some searching on that. Same with the videos. I think there are a few videos, but not a ton. What else? It brings in a lot of classics. It doesn't have a ton of new books, but I could always add those again because it's flexible. I can add things. Okay, so the next program I'm considering heavily for next year is Guest Hollow's Little Kids Early American History Curriculum. Again, this one is also slated for K through 3. So I'm not super stressed about the grade, the fact that my oldest daughter is going to be in 4th, because again, she could very well have been in 3rd grade if she was born 6 weeks later. So not worried about it. But also, if I'm being honest with you, I know this is weird having come from Ambleside Online, which has very rigorous books and very, rich books, which both these programs, by the way, do. And they actually this has a lot of these books. They overlap a ton in their book list. This just has a lot more, I'm going to be honest with you. So that's why I say this one just doesn't feel like it goes as in depth as I wanted to. That's my only big concern with it. And the lack of like activities and videos. This one kind of fits the bill of what this is lacking. So with that, there's a lot of rich literature in here, but I actually kind of love. Okay, sorry, my husband just called me on my phone and it cut off the video. Okay, so what I was saying is that with Guest Hollow, it also comes with a spine that Jen and Charles Guest, they're the creators of the program, they created. So it's literally a textbook, but it's also kind of an activity book intertwined with it. And so the great part about Guest Hollow is that there is so much to it, but you can easily pare it down to the bare minimum. What I love is that in this, it actually has, it's written to the child, like it's written in a language that they can understand. Here, I'll pull like week 8 up. So here's week 8. So you would start the week off reading this, right? Here's Beowulf, their little mascot. It's actually their dog. So we're learning about the French and Indian War. They actually say in here, they wrote this at a level that a kindergartner through probably more of a 3rd grader or 2nd grader could read and comprehend. So it's not like old English and all that stuff, right? It's not, I don't want to say it's like dumbed down, but it's brought to a level that they can read and understand easily to kick off the week. And then each week also has copy work. So if I were to go with this program, this copy work would be perfect for my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter, she will need something a little bit more challenging. So she and I discussed if we went with this level, I would make her a copywork and narration notebook for history. And she would also have a copywork every week based on the material we're learning about that she would have to do in her own separate notebook. I'm going to print one of these off for my oldest daughter so that they each have their own copy. So she won't do this copy work. She'll do her own, and then she will also be required to do one narration a week based on what she learned about that week in our history. So yes, so you continue reading the text, and then it ends on the back. So this would be 1 week's worth of text. They always have a little thing, my book rating, like rating the book because you read a different spine every week. So you get to rate it there. There's some like cutout stuff in the back. So this is like some of the cutout stuff that you get to do, and you get to cut and paste. So this is going to be absolutely right up my 2nd grader's like alley. This will be perfect for her. And it'll be great for my 4th grader with some tweaking. I'm just going to add in her own, I'm going to beef it up for her. I'm going to add in her own notebook. But the rest of the books that are included in this like program, you can take and leave a lot of them. I love that they rate the books. You can pick and choose which ones are important, which ones aren't. They have a ton of videos. They have a lot of activities. It's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I might end up going this route, but I also really love Beautiful Feet and how simplistic it is, but I'm actually afraid it's too simplistic, if that makes sense. But the only thing I would have to do to beef up this level for my oldest daughter, and same with Beautiful Feet, is I'm going to have to bring in older readers for her that are historically on point with whatever we're learning about, which I have a ton that we can bring in, so I'm not worried about that. I would have to do it with either of these levels. And the great part is I already have a lot of these books, but like, for example, like these might be readers, like the week that we're learning about George Washington and reading the Dolaire's George Washington book as our spine that week with either of the programs. I might have my oldest daughter read through this on her own. And then my youngest daughter, who's going to be in 2nd grade, might have a step into reading level 3, one on George Washington, right? So we can cater this to my different kids' levels. Also, I just want to share some of the books that I have, because I love books and I love a thrift store. So this is actually one that's included in the Guest Hollow 4 through 6 edition, but I'm going to bring this in as a visual for my youngest daughter, but also as another reference form for my oldest daughter so that she has something maybe a little bit more complex and a little bit meatier. This is not one that's in either program, but I'm going to bring this in, probably Colonial Voices, Hear Them Speak. It's a really great book about getting into the Boston Tea Party. A More Perfect Union is actually used in both Beautiful Feet and Guest Hollow. I already have it. We're going to bring in Paul Revere Ride. This is actually the poem with gorgeous illustrations. I'm going to bring this in as a reader. It's A Lion to Guard Us, probably during the time that we're going to learn about Jamestown, but I'm going to have my oldest daughter read this as her reader for that week for reading practice. Buffalo Bill, Delore. We're going to bring in Buffalo Bird Girl alongside Buffalo Bill. Squanto's Journey, I already have that. They recommend this Pocahontas. I'm going to bring in 2 readers, one that's young enough for my youngest, and then one that's good for my older reader that they're going to read that week. This is another spine for the week that we're learning about Benjamin Franklin, George Washington. Y'all, I got a lot of the books. Do you think I like American history or what? I just like thrifting. That's actually the problem. I have a problem. It is an addiction. I'm addicted to books. It's bad. So with that being said, these are the 2 programs I'm leaning back and forth between. They both have pros and cons. I'm just trying to work through which one is going to suit us best for next year. If you have used either program and you have an opinion on either, I would love to hear them because I think that would really help me sway which way. I think either or we'd be fine. I think we'd have a really great year. I'm just trying to figure out which one to go with. I at present own both, so I can go with either or because I'm the person that needs to purchase my curriculum and get my hands on it to really understand if it's a good fit for us. And the fact that both are so economically priced. I purchased the physical copy of this and I think it was $30. I think that's fantastic for a year's worth of history. I think this one wasn't too far off the mark. I think for the, where is it? It's in my lab somewhere. I've got too many books in my lab. For the instructor guide, and it also came along obviously with a free spine and the full schedule. I think this was $40. Either way, the point is that these were not terribly expensive and it was worth it to me to spend the money to get my hands on them to really compare and contrast and think what I want to do. Either way, whichever one I end up using, if you guys want me to do any kind of flip throughs of Guest Hollow, or if you want me to do a flip through of Beautiful Feet, I'll get the manual literally in 2 days. Let me know if you'd like to see a little bit more inside how they work. They are laid out very differently. They are very different, but they're also very similar in a lot of ways, which is the hard part. So I would love it if you guys could give me some advice and maybe help me make this decision better. So let's get into science, okay? So I have 2 sciences I'm thinking about. One of them I actually have already purchased because I purchased it like 2 years ago and then ended up not using it for my daughter's 2nd grade year last year. And it is Blossom and Root Level 2, Wonders of the Plant and Fungi Kingdom. So I really have had great success with Blossom and Root Science over the last 2 years. This year is the first year we have not done a Blossom and Root Science. I really love the fact that it is literature based. It has a Charlotte Mason inspired touch to it. It has a bunch of different options for books that you can use. You can just do the spines, or she has a lot of options that you can get from the library to really beef up the week's topic. She provides videos. She provides 4 different types of experiments based on your family style. Are you book people? Are you like STEM people? Are you outdoorsy people? She gives you a smorgasbord. Now, because of that, it is not necessarily what I would consider open and go. Can you make it open and go? Heck yeah. You would just need to take some time up front in the summer before school starts and like go through every lesson for the week and pick, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. So when you open it, you're going boom, 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 boom. You're not looking at it every week going, okay, what am I gonna do? We might change something up this week. You know, it can be the best thing for some families or the worst thing for some families to have so much flexibility, right? But it just depends on your family, what jives best with you guys. So here are the contents of what we would learn if we did this. And again, I printed this out 2 years ago because I thought we were going to be doing it, and then I made a switch. And here's the other contents. So my cons with this are that it is not open and go. Not really. Even if I did all that planning, it's not like do this day. It doesn't even give you a schedule, right? But I actually kind of have loved that in the past, but I think as we are getting older, I'm starting to realize that I need a little bit more structure maybe coming from my curriculums, but it doesn't mean that I couldn't use this with great success, right? Not a big deal. The other con for me is that I'm concerned that my kids will not enjoy studying for a whole year one topic of plants and fungi. Now I know they're two different topics technically, but they're in the plant realm, if that makes sense. I'm afraid they're going to get bored. I'm afraid it's going to drag. It hasn't in the past, but we did space a year ago, and that was like space has so much in it, and they love space. And the year before that we did earth science, which was so much fun. Volcano, tectonic plates, you're learning about rainbows, you're learning about tornadoes, like it's all fun stuff. Plants and fungi, I'm not sure if they're the most exciting. Now my girls said they wanted to learn about it. They said it'd be really fun to learn about plants and everything. So it's not to say that it couldn't work for us and they wouldn't love it, because they're really into plants and fungi right now, right? They might love it for a full year. I don't know. This just might be me being concerned unnecessarily. But the other program I'm thinking about is slightly different, and I'll explain why. So the other one I'm thinking about choosing is Book Sharks Level C Science. So here's the scope and sequence if you want to pause it and take a look. I just started highlighting because this is like the plants. So the way they work is it's more of a unit study approach. You're not studying just one topic and mastering it for a year. You're going to be hitting earth science for the first little bit, which we haven't touched since pre-K and first grade. So I think that would be nice to go back into some earth science, because my kids were really young when we did that, and they don't remember everything. So you're going to touch earth science for the first little bit, probably about the first 10, well, we go into the water cycle, that's part of it. So the first 11 weeks, you're going to be doing earth science, and you're going to be hitting a bunch of different topics within that. Then we're going to be going into what I would consider more chemistry, physics, or not physics. Yeah, well, chemistry and physics. You're going to be learning about matter, solid, gas, liquids. You're going to be doing the periodic table. You're going to be learning about Marie Curie, because you're going to do a biography on her, and radium and all that goodness. And then it goes into an animal unit, learning about the different animal kingdoms, horses, rodents. There's so much birds. There's like a lot in here. And then, of course, we're going to fly into the plant section. We're going to learn about tree ecosystems, cold weather plants, strange plants. I mean, there's just so much that is covered in this. So that is obviously very different than just studying one topic for the whole year. So that's the difference there. The other difference for me, this is the sample I just printed out. I haven't purchased it yet because I'm not purchasing this one yet, because I'm going to wait. I love all the books that also come with it. I'll talk about those in a second. But if you notice, it actually says here, open this, mom, and just go, right? You're reading this, you're going to do these activity sheets. That's the other thing. My girls love activity sheets. I don't know. I don't really particularly feel any other way about activity sheets, as long as they're not a waste of time, if they are effective. And I'm going to be honest with you, if there's one subject where activity sheets would be helpful, it's science, in my opinion. So I actually kind of like that they have activity sheets here, and I'll show you some of them in a second. But you're going to do activity sheet. You might have like an optional project to do together for fun. You're going to kind of repeat that over the next 2 days. And then on the fourth day, you have an experiment. They have a whole experiment guide. In the past, from my understanding, the experiments did not line up with the topic you were learning about. They have completely redone that now, and the experiments align with the topic you're learning about, and it drives it home, which I think is perfect. They also have a laboratory pack, so a supply pack, so you don't have to, because if I don't have a supply pack, I'm not doing the experiment. I've just learned that about myself. I've got too much going on. It's just not going to happen. So I love that this is like really simple to implement. This is very like open and go, implement it. It's got additional information for each day for you, the mom, and that's it. And then here's the key. There's like, a key guide to the activity sheets. So here are the activity sheets. My kids would love this. I actually showed it to them, and they already were like, can we do that? I was like, let me think about it. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. So like, they're going to love that. So for me, The pro for this is that it is still literature based. I'm going to do like a screenshot and share the books on here so you guys can see all the books that are in there. There's animal books, there's plant books, there's the periodic table, there's a biography on Marie Curie. There's like so much, y'all. So I love that it's still literature based because that's a big thing for me. I love that there is an experiment guide and an experiment box that comes with it. I love that they're going to love that there's activity sheets, and the activity sheets will be purposeful. It won't be a waste or, a busy work, we'll call it. And I love that it's open and go for me. I feel like I'm needing that a little bit more as the girls are getting older and they're needing more in other areas, if that makes sense, more of my time. So they're very different. I also already own this. Is that wasteful not to use it? But if it's not going to be enjoyable over the year, is that wasteful then of my time? And I might as well spend the money on this. And I could buy this relatively like cheap. I could find the books thrifted. I would have to purchase the kit from them, but I could probably, like, people are really good about buying and selling used on the Facebook groups for Bookshark. So you can always get it at a cheaper rate. So that's kind of nice. You would just have to buy the kit new unless somebody just didn't use it. And then you would, that'd be awesome. I don't know, y'all. There's a lot of pros and cons about both. Do you see my dilemma here? But these are the things I'm thinking through before next year. And I've got to kind of start figuring it out soon because I like to prep and plan for a few months towards the end of the school year so that I'm ready for the next school year. Last thing I was going to mention for group subjects that I'm considering bringing in is, so again, I have the whole Blossom and Root level 2 bundle, and I had already printed it out a year ago, 2 years ago. So I had already printed out the Exploring Math and Art for level 2 from Blossom and Root. Now, this is different than the one that we were trying to use this year, level 0. This isn't like a composer, artist, art, and history of me study. This is very different. This is what I would consider more a studio art with a little bit of art study in it. So I'm going to show you the contents. So the contents here, you're going to go over lines. You're going to go over, perceptive and vanishing points, or perspective, repetition, fractals, fractions, grids, timetable geometry. So let's just pull one of these up here for an example so I can share with you what that might look like here. Okay, let's look at week 10. You're learning about perspective in this lesson. So what you're going to do is you're going to share a piece. This one is Rain in the Oak Forest by Ivan Shishkin. So you're going to show them that picture. Then you're going to read. So you're going to do a little bit of an art study. Then you're going to read to them about the math concept, which we're talking about perspective, like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, you'll see here. And then you're going to replicate that and in a studio art fashion of understanding how you layer, this is closer up, this is farther back, it's getting, what do you call it? Lighter in color because it's farther away. It's just teaching those actual techniques and concepts in art. And I think my girls would really enjoy that because they're really enjoying our brushwork handiwork right now. So I think they'll really enjoy something like that. So I'm thinking about maybe bringing that in on Fridays, but if it feels like we've got too much on our plate, we might not do it. I could save it for the next year. I know it's for level 2, but this isn't specifically age specific. I mean, maybe not for somebody in high school, but when you're still in the elementary or early middle school years, you could still use this even though it's level 2. But that's it. Those are kind of my thoughts for next year. Nothing is set in stone. As you can tell, I'm actually really warring back and forth between some of these different curriculums. I will say I have at least dialed it down to 2 curriculums per subject, I think. But they are kind of all a little different from each other in some ways, but then similar in some ways. So that, I hope that was helpful for you to see how my thought process works on long-term planning, but also when it gets down to okay, next year, how does that actually work in practice? Nothing is decided yet. I would actually love to hear from some of you guys. If any of you have used these products before, if you could give me some, insight, any opinions. I just think it really helps me kind of round out my own thinking, right? If you have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, definitely leave those down in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. I love doing planning videos. I am a planner at heart. I will be happy to make more of these for you. If you give it lots of thumbs up, I will know that you liked it. And if you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video where I will be talking about individual subjects for my kiddos for next year, potential ones that I'm thinking about. So I'll see you then.